Yes, a Western vessel for the serving of infusions of dried tea leaves. It's a teacup, Mr. Naruhodo. As you well know, stop putting on airs. Ah, the Western vessel for infused hot drinks again. It's already featured heavily in our deductions so far. It's another Western vessel for infused... It's a teacup, Naruhodo! A teacup! Okay, sorry, Susanoo. Ooh, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I am the Story-Driven Gamer, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are hopping back into the Great Ace Attorney 2, Resolve. In the last episode, we started Chapter 2. I'm liking it so far. We're back with our boy, Naruhodo, Ryunosuke. And he's, of course, back in his little apartment, his little upstairs office. We got to see Sholmes again, and Iris, and it was lovely. I missed them both a lot. and of course, what's-her-face, Susanoo is still in Japan. So, I think I mentioned last episode, I'm wondering if we're going to do like a kind of switching back and forth between the two. Like, Susanoo will remain in Japan, and maybe we'll switch back to her in some episodes. And then others will be with Ryunosuke here in England. We'll have to see. Hopefully their paths converge once more. But basically, we got to explore the apartment a little. Iris, presented us with the notes that Susanoo was talking about in her letter that she wanted us to examine. An old case. And now we have flashback to that case, which took place, I think, like the next day or very soon after we got, this guy Natsume. We found him not guilty of the stabbing of Mrs. Green. And now he's being accused of another murder right away. So again, I know I've said this a lot, but I'm really liking how this game, so far, just the two cases we've been a part of so far, have been very important, have been directly tied to cases from the last game. I really like that. In a way, it almost makes this doesn't really feel like a new game, and I mean that in a positive way. It doesn't feel like it's some completely new story. I might veer off in that direction, maybe, as we go, but it feels like a true blue continuation of the last game. It's not bringing us on a whole new adventure, a whole new bunch of side cases with new characters. I mean, we will see new characters, but we're seeing a lot of returning faces and just lots of connections, which is cool. And now this guy right here has been murdered. I'm not sure how yet. We just started the examination, or the investigation, rather. I had said, I think this is the guy we met very briefly in the last game. And I had noted then that was rather odd that he appeared and he had no connection to the case whatsoever. And here he is. There was another guy I remember that he was arguing with. I don't know if it was like a manager. I don't remember who he was. It was like an older guy that was also there that he was arguing with. We never saw him again either, so I bet you will see him. Maybe he'll be the one who killed this guy. Who knows? Anyway, let's get investigating. I feel like I should start by talking to one of these two, and then we can investigate all over. Actually, no, let's investigate first. I think that's a smarter way to go about this. What's this? Oi! I said hands off! You're gonna mess up my crime scene! Yeah, so another cool thing, because they were flashing back, I just said how Susanoo is back in, Japan, but since this is a flashback to before she left, she is with us. So, we are still gonna get our Susanoo fix. Oh, no, I just wanted to look, that's all. No chance. I know your kind. You'll mess it up just by looking at it. Ugh. Someone's in a bad mood. Isn't he always? There's certainly some bad air in here, isn't there? Alright. It sounds like I'd better talk to the inspector first and try to curry some favor. Okay, so is that gonna be... Okay, we can't look at anything then. Can I talk to Natsume, or is he off limits too, Inspector? Okay, there isn't much to see here. He's got frickin' theater sets in his apartment, this guy. Let me just try talking to him first. What a terrible thing to have happened. It's only been 3 days since I was arrested for the incident on the pavement outside. And then, Having finally regained my freedom, it starts happening all over again. Endless existence of excruciating experiences. Yeah, sucks to be you. I think I said that last episode too. So the victim lived here on the ground floor, and your room is just one story up, isn't it? Yes, that's right. In a way, we were neighbors, I suppose. So, did you know the victim? Were you friends? What's he gonna say? We were lovers, actually. No, he's losing it. Because I mean, if he must have some connection. Because if he has no connection, then I mean, it could be anyone. It's not like this guy was killed in his apartment or something. But he's shaking, so he's gonna have something to say. What's the matter with Suzuki-san now? It was an innocent enough question, wasn't it? Why does he seem so shaken by it? Well, I suppose he wasn't a complete stranger. But did he even invite me to his room? Never! On my honor, I swear it! Okay, calm down. I believe you. Maybe I shouldn't. What an extreme reaction! Calm down, boyo. You're probably wishing you'd never asked now, aren't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yeah, I'm thinking on it. When we found him here, I felt wretched, which is why I sent word asking you to come. Through that inspector over there! Oh yeah, I haven't talked to him yet. You wait there, Mr. Natsume. We have a little talk. Hey, can I have some of those fish and chips? So, Inspector, what was the victim's name? Who was he? I don't even think we know that much. Oh my gosh. I should have known. Mr. William Shamspeare, obviously. He's a well-known actor. He has a lodger here. Shamspeare. Classic. As you can probably tell, he was an actor. A bit of a dead loss as it happens, or just dead. Mr. Shamspeare. Why does that name sound so familiar? It's on the tip of my tongue. Oh well. Probably not important. It was the landlord, old Mr. Garadev, and the other lodger, Mr. Natsume, who found him. Mr. Garadev. I wonder if he'll appear in this at all. Well, he probably will, because he just said Mr. Garadev found him, right? So, we'll probably see him again. The fellow didn't rise at his usual hour, so Garadev got worried and kicked the door down. But, doesn't Mr. Garadev have a bad leg? Oh, yeah, you're right there. It was that jittery Japanese hunchback over there who actually did the kicking. Really? Suzuki-san? Okay, if you say so. The victim was pretty hard up, it seems. Even done some time inside for petty crimes. He had no money, no place to go, and no friends. His only acquaintances were the people in his house. Miserable life and a miserable end to it. Yeah, that sucks. So, what exactly is Mr. Natsume still doing here? He's not involved in the investigation, so shouldn't you have sent him away from the crime scene? Probably not that simple. Well, I'm not saying it's because the fellow looks odd or anything, or that he acts suspicious. But I thought it would be prudent to take a statement from the culprit. I mean, cohabitor. You nearly said culprit there, didn't you? Well, of course, because he's guilty. Oh dear. Mr. Natsume appears to be under suspicion again. It certainly seems that way. He does just come across as such an odd fellow, doesn't he? Poor man. How unfortunate. It's funny because there have certainly been characters, people, throughout the game to have been accused of murder multiple times. But I can't think of anybody who has been accused of a murder within, like, the span of a few days. Or a couple days. I don't know how, I forget exactly how long it's been. But I'm pretty sure the trial for the last case just ended recently at this point. Like, we just got word that Mrs. Green just woke up. I think it's literally a day or two after the results of the Miss Green case, and now he's suspected once again. Could you imagine that? Oh man. Like the relief that you would feel, like, oh, I got off of this murder, and then you're immediately sucked into another one. Oh, did I read that? I don't think I did. My bad. Anyway, I can't say much until the coroner gets here. But I don't think the fella has been gone that long. The body's still warm. Even if the inspector would allow it, I don't think I could bring myself to touch a dead body. I'm not Kyoko after all. Oh, okay. I saw you appear, Mr. Sholmes. Oh, are we gonna get to do... I'm sure we are. I forget what he called them. The deduction extravaganza or whatever. Those are fun. What are you doing, Sholmes? Click. Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing? Ha! You need only observe to know, my dear fellow. Investigating naturally. There's nothing natural about that pose. Mr. Sholmes, have you made some miraculous discovery, like you always do? Patience, my dear madam, patience. We've not been here in this room 5 minutes. Actually, it's been... I don't know, it's been almost a week. In reality, I left the game, and we've just been... You guys have just been sitting in this room the whole time, I guess. So far, all I've had to deduce is what actually happened. Oh, is that all? My goodness! But... Isn't that everything we need to know, Mr. Sholmes? Like, literally everything. Now that you've proposed the idea, I believe one could indeed see it that way. Oh! At the present time, I have managed to draw 2 incontrovertible conclusions. The first, that there was a physical struggle here last night in which the victim fought for his life. Ah! Ah! Mr. Natsume, what's wrong? Is something that Mr. Sholmes said significant somehow? No, don't mind me. Forget I was here. And my second conclusion is that there was a poison lingering in the air here, last night that passed the victim's lips. Nonsense! Ah, again? You need to calm down, Mr. Natsume. Oh wait, Mr. Natsume, why are you reacting so extremely to Mr. Sholmes' deductions? I did it! I'm the culprit! I mean, what? No! Please! Pretend I'm not here! Okay, duly noted. Indivisible, ineffable, inscrutable, insignificant. Pay me no mind. Impossible to ignore. You forgot an I. If you would shut up, Mr. Natsume, we would be able to ignore you quite easily. You must tell us everything, Mr. Sholmes. Spare no detail. I feel we're going into one of those extravaganzas right now. But of course, let the theatrical tragedy before us be unraveled by my great deductions, presented for your pleasure in 2 acts. We've heard some truly astounding great deductions from Mr. Sholmes in the past. And I don't mean great as in good, or well thought out. No doubt this will be no exception. What miracles will unfold before our eyes this time? Let's turn our attention over to Mr. Sholmes. So, my dear fellows, for your delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Herlock Sholmes's Logic and Reasoning Spectacular, Act 1. There we go, that's what it's called. The Great Deduction. The game is afoot. I love these. So let's see. Cause of death. Yeah, snap. Careful observation of the victim reveals to us the events that transpired in this disconsolate room last night. Oh, he's got something on his face there. Yeah, foam at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. Oh, Natsume reacted to that. Then again, he's been reacting this whole time. A sponge? What is that? Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate, which contains, you will observe, 1/2 of a sizable bar of soap. Meaningful, indubitably. What would that be doing there? Why is the soap set so purposefully upon the dish? Like the victim's last supper, in fact. Yes. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. Yeah. Okay, Sholmes. There's nothing weird about that at all. Let's continue. It appears that the young man's appetite was his undoing. Taking up arms in the form of his cutlery, the victim engaged in a deadly battle for his life. Mr. Natsume is just like reacting to everything he's saying. Yet the struggle against his hunger was in vain, for in the end he couldn't resist devouring the slippery feast. But London foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yeah. Kids, don't eat soap. Or Tide Pods. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of the plate. The soap and the lather about the young man's mouth are too perfectly matched to ignore. Interesting. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to excessive ingestion of foul soap. Makes perfect sense to me. Though personally I have greater interest in the taste of foul candle wax, of course. Poisoning from soap ingestion. Sorry, forgot to read that. Topic 2. Suicide or murder? Oh, interesting question. The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, where we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder? Oh my gosh, what's happening? The audience will recall the death occurred during the victim's last supper. That's what I'm calling it. Did the man dine and die alone? This single teacup suggests the answer. To draw a conclusion on such meager evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. The careful criminal could have absconded with his own cup to cover his tracks. Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow. Oh dear. Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. Ah, so somebody else had to have been involved. Though forced open now at the time of the incident, this door was locked. Makes sense. And the soul key was in the victim's pocket. In other words, when the victim consumed the poison, he must have been alone. Alone with his inferior soap from whence wafted an inferior scent. Huzzah! And with that acrid aroma lingering in the air, the victim met his end, in tragic solitude. We can take comfort only in the fact that his soul was well cleansed on its way to the hereafter. Okay, it totally makes sense. No possible perpetrator present. Thus concludes the final act of Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction. Wasn't I wonderful? As always, you suck. Rianowski, what the hell was that? I don't know. This is much tastier than soap. There's just one thing, Mr. Sholmes. There's actually a lot of things. You are disposed to identifying just one thing, aren't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Pray, what concerns you? Well, no matter how hungry he was, do you really think the man would have eaten soap? Just saying. It is quite apparent that this man had barely a penny to his name. It is a curious thing, but to one so destitute, soap can suddenly appear quite irresistibly appetizing. And poisonous. How extraordinary! I'll write that down in my journal. Please don't. In truth, I've tried a little soap myself in the past. It was terrible. You've eaten it, you mean? Like with your mouth? My dear fellow, it was some time ago now. My postulation was that it would cleanse my gut. And did it? As I writhed in agony on the floor and split the contents of my stomach, yes, I believe it did. Ha ha! The experience taught me a valuable lesson. Soap is quite poisonous. I needed to run that experiment to figure that one out. Huzzah! It has an unpleasant taste and leads to great discomfort. In summary, I cannot recommend it. You might die. Believe me, I wouldn't eat it even if you did. Oh gosh. Sholmes is too much. There's something that troubles me as well, actually. Oh? What's that? It's Mr. Natsume. Yeah, he's been a jittery wreck. Ah! Pay me no mind. I couldn't help noticing him shuddering and quivering out of the corner of my eye. Almost as if Mr. Sholmes' deductions touched a nerve somehow. No. Nonsense! Well, that clenched teeth episode didn't last. I do wonder what that's about. I think, judging by Mr. Natsume's reaction, he did it! He's guilty! Lock him up! The great detective's deductions may need some gentle corrections in order to reach the actual truth. Good idea, Suzuto, as always. Yes, Mr. Sholmes' observations and deductions are sometimes a little too sharp. He has a tendency to hit the nail on the side of the head and to drive it in at an obtuse angle. When he does that, it falls to us to straighten things out. Well put, Naruhodo. Alright then, let's see what we can do. Yes, we must pick out the key words in Mr. Sholmes' quite brilliant deductions. And discreetly exchange them for something that makes a little more sense. If we can do that... Huzzah! I love that pose. I'm sure we'll arrive at what Mr. Sholmes meant to say in the first place, but it's too stupid to actually come up with. In that case, are you ready for the second performance of the day? I like how they phrase it, like, Mr. Sholmes is on the right track, he just needs a little push in the right direction. He literally just deduced that this guy ate soap. I mean, I know he has a fork in his hand, I know there's a soap on the plate, but come on. Anyway, once again, my dear fellows, for your continued delight, no wonder, and wonder, let the curtain arise. For Herlock Sholmes is logic and reasoning spectacular, Act 1, again. Here we go. Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Cause of death, poisoning from soap ingestion. Careful observation of the victim reveals to us the events that transpired in this disconsolate room last night. The foam at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. Oh, excuse me. Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate which contains, you will observe, 1/2 of a sizable bar of soap. Meaningful, indubitably. Why that soap set so purposefully upon the dish? Like the victim's last supper, in fact, yes. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. Well, you can't deny that a fork implies the man was eating something, or about to eat something. Yes, that's true. If I were to decide to eat some soap, I should prefer to use a fork than to attempt it with chopsticks. And of course, only half of the bar of soap is left on the plate. I feel like that would be hard to do, though. Like a full bar of soap, you need to like have a sharp knife and cut into pieces, right? If you just stuck a fork in, you just lift the whole bar of soap up. Anyway, I'm thinking too much into that. But might there not be some other explanation? Something material that proves whether or not the man really ate some soap? Something material. Okay, well, let's examine some things first. Do you think he was drinking tea with the soap? The cup's empty, so there's no way of knowing. Ah, how about this for an idea? Perhaps the cup was full of water, and he was dissolving soap in it so he could gulp as much down as possible. Please remember that he may not actually have been the soap lover that he's made out to be. Oh, right. Might be. Here we got the fork. Oh, there's another piece of soap. I'm sure that's relevant. I suppose you'd eat soap with a fork, would you? I don't think it's a question of which implement you'd use. You shouldn't eat soap, full stop. Is that an expression that existed, back in this time? Let's just go with it. But then why? Why does that man have a fork in his hand? Oh dear. I understand your frustration, Mr. Naruhodo, but please don't take it out on me. The point is, because it's a fork. I get it. I'm sure that wasn't meant to be a joke. If we decided the man used the fork to eat the soap, we wouldn't be changing Mr. Sholmes' deduction. So we really ought to consider some other clues. Okay, I see the soap on the floor. I'm just looking for other things to examine. There actually isn't much I can really examine. I did the fork just now, right? Yeah, that's right, just examine. Okay, I see the bar of soap on the floor. I'm sure that's relevant. Look, there's more soap on the floor here. Mr. Shamspeare must really have loved this stuff. Let's not jump to conclusions, Mr. Naruhodo. Look closely at the soap. It looks like it was cut in half. Yeah, do you see that would fit together perfectly with the half bar on the table? What the? How can that be? I think that there are two halves of the same bar that broke apart. Duh. I'm not sure I'm seeing why, but that's gotta be what we're looking for, right? I guess the point is, like, it looks like part of it's been eaten, but the other half is literally right there, so he hasn't eaten any. Okay, I guess that's what we're presenting. Take that! Take that! Shatter your deductions. Oh yeah, I'm wearing the new outfit. And what the heck is that on my shoulder? I have a little mouse friend. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the other piece of soap reveals the answer. It being the other half of the soap on the table. In short, the victim was not eating soap at all. But it's obvious, really, for no depths of hunger could drive any man to attempt to eat soap. Yep, I'm changing my mind. Even I, with my unquenchable thirst for practical knowledge, took only a single bite. But that begs the question of how the man was poisoned. Because there's no sign of any food on the table. An excellent observation, Mr. Naruhodo, and one that furnishes us with the answer we seek. Forget about the cup that's on the table there, let's look for another answer. For London, foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of the plate. Mr. Sholmes is still pushing the soap argument, then. Perhaps he's suggesting the man licked the soap rather than ate it. If soap in London is that poisonous, I don't think I want to be washing my hands with it. But there were no signs of any food in this room at all. Of course, food isn't the only thing that passes people's lips, is it? What could it be? I can't imagine. Okay. I'm just gonna examine... No, not that. The teacup. Is the dialogue any different, or is it the same dialogue we had before? Yes, a western vessel for the serving of infusions of dried tea leaves. It's a teacup, Mr. Naruhodo. As you well know. Stop putting on airs. And it's empty. Ah, so we've already established that the victim wasn't eating soap when he died. However, there's significant evidence to suggest that he was drinking tea. My thoughts exactly. Good job. You're so smart. Do I have new dialogue for all this stuff? The contents of the plate is just the soap again, isn't it? Well, you know there's a saying in Japanese, don't you? If your food is poisoned, you might as well eat it, plate and all. Is that a thing? Well, there's an image. All I can picture now is the victim first taking a bite of the soap, and then the plate. The soap like some tofu, and the plate like a giant rice cracker. Oh dear, that sounds like a very bland combination. Let's not test that out. If the victim didn't eat the soap, then what did he eat? Yes, it's a real mystery, isn't it? I can't imagine what it could be. Ah, I've got it! He wasn't interested in eating the soap at all. It was this fork he wanted to satisfy his hunger with. Sure? Mr. Naruhodo, you dumbass. I really don't think it's helpful to continue with this line of reasoning that the gentleman had peculiar tastes. Pseudo sounded such a gentle way with words, but I know when I've been told off. Okay, let's just do it.
Take that!
Take that! Got him. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the teacup. Indeed, the cups have been the vessel of choice for practicing poisoners over the centuries. And it would appear that this victim drank every last drop. There's no sign of food anywhere in the room. Which leads us to the immutable conclusion. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to the ingestion of poison contained in this teacup. Poison in the tea. Suicide or murder. No possible perpetrator present. So one thing I'm thinking of is, again, we still have to ponder the fact that Natsume is acting very suspicious. Maybe Natsume served him the tea? I don't believe he put the poison in, but maybe he's the one who served him the tea? Or maybe the cup belongs to Natsume? And somebody stole it from him? I don't know. I'm trying to think of why he'd be acting weird. So far nothing has implicated him. The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, where we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or a murder? See, he's acting weird again. The audience will recall the death occurred during the victim's last supper. Did the man dine and die alone? This single teacup suggests the answer. Ah, the western vessel for infused hot drinks again. It's already featured heavily in our deductions so far. Yes, we can imagine that shortly before his death, Mr. Shamspeare was having a drink of tea. There would be nothing remarkable about that. But what troubles me is Mr. Natsume's reaction when he heard Mr. Sholmes suggest it. There's more to this deduction than it seems. You must closely examine the scene of the crime again for some more clues. there anything weird about the teacup itself? Oh. Oh. When I was... Yeah, what... Oh, okay. So he has a teacup in his hand. How did we miss that? Okay. Okay. Can we examine that little bit on his face, too? Nope. Okay, I want to examine everything else again, like I've been doing. It's empty. And it's the only cup on the table. It would appear so, yes. And when we consider those facts, Mr. Sholmes' reasoning seems highly logical. But it's always the same in these deductions. The real truth is always buried a little deeper than the great detective suggests. Mr. Naruhodo, you seem very dubious of Mr. Sholmes all of a sudden. Okay, so what I'm thinking then is this will prove that that's his cup. It'll prove that there was another person with him, and I'm assuming that person was Mr. Natsume. Maybe they were eating together or drinking tea together, and he was poisoned. That's my guess. Yeah, let's examine the fork again. The fork, again? The victim just seems to be holding it so pointedly. It makes it impossible to let go of the idea that it must be involved somehow. It has to be! Well, let's hope it turns out to be a useful clue in the end. But I doubt it. Okay, the soap again? No, I can't even examine the soap. Okay, I think that's it. Let me examine this and then present it. It's another Western vessel for infused... It's a teacup, Naruhodo! A teacup! Okay, sorry, Susanoo. And it too is empty. Oh, that was her. Given that he's actually holding this one in his hand, we can assume that this is the cup from which Mr. Shamspeare was actually drinking. What could it mean? But if that's the case, this changes everything. Everything we've deduced up till now is turned on its head. I have a bad feeling about this. I almost don't want to say it. Yes, I know exactly how you feel. Okay.
Take that!
Take that! The other teacup. Did the man dine and die alone? This other teacup suggests the answer. Yes, there were 2 teacups in this room all along. Ugh! In other words, this is a strong indication that at the victim's last supper, there was a guest present. And I wonder who that could be. At the very least, we can say now with certainty that somebody else was here in this room last night, taking tea with the victim. What are you talking about? It wasn't me. I mean, what? Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable. To draw a conclusion on such meager evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. In which case, what more can we deduce about this possible guest at the table? Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow. Do you mean to say you know who exactly was in this room at the time of the victim's death? Indeed. What reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. I'm not sure I like where this deduction is going now. I'm afraid it's too late to go back to the halcyon days of eating too much soap. But the identity of the guest who was in here last night when the victim passed away is something I have a very bad feeling about. Well, you can try to ignore your feelings, but we cannot ignore the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. Let's do this! No, I suppose not. Time to look around again. I guess we'll start with the broken lock itself. Oh dear. The latch is most definitely broken, isn't it? The door was kicked in by Mr. Natsume, according to what Mr. Garrett told the inspector. Who knew his short, thin little legs had so much strength in them? I'm not sure the length of his legs is in any way significant here. Perhaps this says more about the poor state of the door than about Mr. Natsume's strength, actually. Careful! If you ever heard that remark, he'd almost certainly have a lively response. He'd kick you in the face! I don't know. Can this broken lock really tell us anything about who was here? Let's see what else we got. Pile of books. Oh, could this be the books, what's his face, that Natsume had? Let's examine this first. It's empty. Empty of liquid, but full of air. Good point, Naruhodo. That makes you think, doesn't it? It makes me think that you're full of hot air. Haha. We should be thinking about who else was in this room at the time. Bother. Suzuto-san's quip in response was cleverer than my original riddle. Damn it all. So anyway, as I was saying, you know, we have the evidence that... Actually, there's evidence from the last game, the Miss Green case, that Natsume borrowed, I think he bought 3 books from that You Have Books place. This might be them. There's 3 here. At first glance, it seems that the only things in this room are the makeshift stage and the costumes. I overlooked these 3 books initially. I wonder what they are. Let's see, the titles read... The Picture of Monsieur Lecoq, Canterbury Yearnings, and A Meal for Gabero. Why do they sound so familiar? Wait, I'm sure I've heard those titles before. It could just be an incredible coincidence, but probably not. They're the exact same 3 books that Mr. Natsume purchased the other day. What? Say, what? What you talking about, Suzuto? Yes, on the day of the unfortunate incident when Miss Green was stabbed. Suzuki-san had just been to a bookshop and bought them, that's right. And now those 3 titles are here in the room of the victim. Coincidence? I think not. Yet Mr. Natsume claims never to have been here before. Liar! What does this mean, do you think? I really don't know what to make of it. Just press the triangle button. And we'll see what happens. Okay, is that the last thing to inspect? I see a candle. Might as well examine it. Get all the fluff text we can. Even Mr. Shamspeare didn't need candles, it seems. We've already established that he didn't need soap either. Do you think perhaps the guest brought this candle here last night? Even if he or she did, does it reveal anything about the guest's identity? Good point. It's Lumiere. There goes my idea, snuffed out like that candle will be. If you sigh so deeply, Mr. Naruhodo, you're in danger of blowing out the flame. I mean, the lights are on, so we're good. Okay, it's obviously this then. Proving that Mr. Natsume was here.
Take that!
Take that, Mr. Natsume. Why are you lying to me? Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the pile of familiar books. Quite so, it's no mere coincidence that these 3 titles are here in this room. It's the link to the truth. Snap. Oh! Don't look at me like that. Mr. Natsume, you purchased these books 4 days ago at a second-hand bookshop. Yeah, see, he purchased those books 4 days ago, and, I'm pretty sure he bought the books before the Miss Green case even happened. Or he bought them on the day Miss Green was killed, so that was 4 days ago. So this is literally 4 days after the start of that trial. That's just a coincidence! In that case, you will be able to bring the same 3 titles from your own room, will you not? True. This very moment. Oh, damn it. No, never! Non-negotiable! If you can't bring your own copies here, it proves that these 3 books are in fact yours. I lost them? I like his eyebrow game. Ah, strike a pose, Natsume. Having purchased the books 4 days ago and returned to your lodgings, you were arrested the very next day. I love the visuals of these sections too. So cool. So you could conceivably, So you could conceivably have brought the books here on that evening, but you never mentioned that. In other words, you could only have brought these 3 books here to the victim's room. Snap, snap, snap. Oh yeah. Dancing all the way to the room. Last night, having returned to your lodgings after the trial concluded at the Old Bailey. Right away. In short, there is only one possible conclusion. The victim died here in this room last night as a result of poisoning. And that same night, the victim had a visitor. And that visitor... Naruhodo's like, don't steal my thunder. Boom. Was you, Mr. Suzuki Natsume? No! Thus concludes the final act of Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction. I'm so awesome. Suicide or murder? Suzuki Natsume, at the scene. Well, I guess he's guilty. Let's lock him up. Case is done. On to chapter 3. Deduction complete. Elementary, my dear Ryunosuke. Not again. Not again. Not again. My life sucks. Not again! Well then, Mr. Natsume. Come with me. It would appear you're going to have to accompany me down to the yard. Again. We're becoming fast friends, aren't we? But wait! Hold your horses! Yes, I'm waiting. Door, key, locked. Entry, exit, entirely impossible. He's so flustered he's being even stranger than normal. What, you think that's an alibi? You could have just made a copy. What? What's that? You live in the same building after all. You would have plenty of opportunity, I'm sure. But... Misery me! Despicable me is more like it. Aha! Sorry, sir, you'll get your chance to give your side of the story later. The facts speak for themselves, Mr. Mustache. You horrible hairlock Sholmes! He really has found himself an arch rival now, hasn't he? I will get you for this! Come on now, no dilly-dallying. Outside, there's a carriage waiting. Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire? Oh my voice is cracked. I never imagined I'd be in this position again, but... You have to help me, please, please! I'm innocent! Now you're on your own this time, buddy. Alright, I understand. We'll come to your cell later and talk about it. And one more thing. Oh? Yes? My poor little kitty cat. Please give him his breakfast for me. Oh yeah, little Waggy. And so, his evil curse still apparently unbroken, Suzuki-san found himself once again the prime suspect in a case of murder. Thanks to the incriminating deduction of the great detective. My dear fellow, that honor belongs to you. Is that the end of the chapter? Oh no, we're still going. Well, at least that means Inspector Gregson is no longer here. Thank God. No, I'm kidding. He's right. We can examine the crime scene in more detail now. Yes, that's right. Ah, and of course... That's right, I forgot we haven't done that yet. What? Have you forgotten what the inspector mentioned before? It was the landlord, Mr. Garadev, who discovered Mr. Shamspeare. Ah, Mr. John Garadev, yes. I expect we could find him in the sitting room on the top floor as usual. Right. We must remember to go and talk to him later, then. Sweet. Sweetness. What to examine first? I might save the obvious for last, the body. What the heck is this thing? Look at these extravagant bright costumes. Somehow they look out of place in this room with its grim, shady goings-on. This one looks like a king's attire. A king? I've always dreamt of being a king. Never happened, though. Oh, I think you'd be more suited for a feudal lord. A daimyo or such like. With a shonmage top knot? Every Japanese man wishes he had a shonmage, whatever that is. I don't know what that is. Oh, you'd look wonderful with one. And you already have the sword. Yeah, that is true. Can you imagine what would happen if I walked around the streets of London with a shonmage and a sword? No idea if I'm saying that right. Anything else? What's this on the floor here? What's this? It looks like the same color as the soap, but... It looks like part of an envelope, I think. Yes, I think you might be right. Perhaps it was torn off when the letter was opened. Is that significant? Probably. Well, it's a little out of place, perhaps, when you look around the room. There's no sign of a letter, or the rest of the envelope, in fact, is there. Ah, she's right. And yet here we have the torn off end of an envelope. It just strikes me as unusual. I agree. We'd better take this, just in case. Torn off end of an envelope. A ripped piece of an envelope that was found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. The rest of the envelope could not be located. It's either hidden in this room somewhere, or more likely, the actual killer left with it, and left that behind. Okay. Got the bookshelf over here, or whatever this shelf is. There's not much on these shelves, is there? Just this wine glass and bottle. And both of them are cracked. Yes, not much use, are they? What's the matter? Oh, I was just reminded of the Reaper, that's all. The Reaper of the Bailey. We haven't seen him yet this game. Prosecutor Lord Van Zykes? Yes, he's so reckless with his wine glasses. I was thinking it's a waste and that he should donate some to the needy. I'm stumbling over my words today. You can suggest it next time we meet. Hopefully that we'd never meet again, right? No, I'm kidding. I liked him. Oh, we got this boarded up window. I think Natsume had that in his room too. As you've seen from the outside, the window is completely bricked up. A vestige of the former window tax that Britons had to pay. Oh, that's right. I forgot that's why. What strange things they used to tax in Great Britain. I mean, making people pay for the number of windows they had in a property? It's extraordinary. It's heartbreaking to think of the poor having to block up their windows just to avoid an unaffordable tax. Oh! What is it, Miss Suzero? If you look closely, a number of bricks are loose. Are they? I can't tell from here. Oh. Ah. Oh yes, it looks as though an amateur has broken out a few of them just here. And look at that, 2 bars of soap. Was it Mr. Shamspeare who did it, I wonder? Being the lodger renting this room. Oh, look at this, Mr. Naruhodo. Gold doubloons. Oh, I got that from SpongeBob, didn't I? I almost couldn't remember where I heard that from. 2 gold doubloons. Don't drop them. On the outside, there's a little ledge, and there's something on it. What? Outside? Should I have a closer look? But it's so cold outside. You can feel it through this gap. It did snow all last night. It would be cold. But more importantly, what is it on the ledge out there? What are those snow-covered lumps? It's more bars of soap. Soap? What are bars of soap doing lined up on a ledge outside the window? I have no idea. But the pair of them look rather charming like that, if you say so. Still, it's very strange, isn't it? Bars of soap lined up outside the window. I think perhaps we should take one. There are 2, after all. Oh dear, I suppose we could. But it'll ruin the aesthetic. Oh, what's this? Look here at the soap. Ah, there's something inside it. Do you see? In the middle there, there's a patch that's a different color. It's sort of transparent, but is it a coin? Some sort of fancy design, I suppose, only in Great Britain. It looks like the Hinomaru flag of Japan, doesn't it? How wonderful. It's probably a very expensive brand. Expensive? Then what's it doing in this ramshackle old room? A cheap bar of soap that was discovered just outside Mr. Shamspeare's window. It's one of 2 that were found there. Were they being brought in from the outside? Like, did Shamspeare want them for some reason and somebody was passing them into him from outside? And that's why he has one on the table here? I don't know. Still quite confusing. Take a look at this. And here we have another disproportionately large machine. This looks like a meter of some kind. Ah, this is a gas meter, I think. Didn't Mr. Natsume have one in his room? It seems that in this district, residents pay for gas as they use it with coins. Yep, I remember that. Ah, I see. Yes, now you've pointed it out. I can see that there's a slot just here that looks like it would take a coin. I have to take a closer look at that bar of soap, because that almost looked like a coin inside the soap. So I mean, if you put a coin in here, maybe they were hiding coins in the soap so that you could use it on that machine. I don't know. That's right. That would buy you about 2 hours of gas for lights and heating. So, if you were a poor person with no money, you'd have to sleep in the freezing cold? Yes, or if you were a scatterbrain with no change because you've got to exchange your money at the bank. Either or. Thank goodness there's no meter in our office. Okay. Got a light up here. Should I look at this thing first? Here's the candle again. Let's look at the backdrop. This is some sort of makeshift stage, I think, isn't it? Where does the audience sit, though? For the nightly Shakespeare performances. They look in through that hole in the window. They look in through that hole in the window. That's about it. Actors aspiring to the great stage must practice their art. Mr. Naruhodo, with or without an audience. Fair enough. In fact, on a related note, perhaps you should set up a mock bench for the defense in your office. What? That would be fun. Then you could practice your art every single day! Or not. I'll think about it. If you promise to don a beard and play the role of the judge. I'll do it! Well, if that would help you achieve your goal. I play a convincing man if I do say so myself. This I have to see. Oh man, can we make that happen? That would be hilarious. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is a gas wall light, isn't it? It must be connected to a gas pipe in the wall. Gas lights? A gas stove? London really is a city of gas. It smells really bad here. But now that I think about it, Mr. and Mrs. Garadev had an open fire on the top floor, didn't they? They're special. Oh yes, you're right. I don't recall seeing a gas stove up there. Well, I must prefer a real fire anyway. It's so much cozier. Okay. I think... Obviously, I know I haven't examined the body yet, but I think other than the body, that's it. I don't know if this is all one thing, like the teacup and the body. Let's just examine him. Oh, the poor man. So young to die. Why must the good die young? Do you suppose it was a very painful death, being poisoned as he was? I don't know. I've never been poisoned before, haha. All I can do now is hope that he'll be reborn to a better life. Yes, I suppose you're right. I wonder... Maybe he'll be reborn as William Shamspeare. Do you think that putting our hands together in a Japanese prayer will help a British soul? Sorry? I made sure I had a reference at the ready for just such an occasion as this, actually. This book is entitled The Beginner's Guide to Praying for the Departed, the British Way. I'll just reread it now. One moment. There's quite a spin on that book, isn't there? Okay, I thought we were gonna, I don't know, maybe examine the body or something? Guess not. Can I get the soap? Well, anyway, let's do this. The teacup. Ah, one of the teacups that Mr. Shamspeare and his guests drank from last night. But don't go drinking from them, Mr. Naruhodo. There's bitter poison inside. Don't do it! I'm not planning on drinking any, don't worry. Anyway, the cups are both empty. That's true. So, one was Mr. Shamspeare's, and the other must be the cup that Mr. Natsume was drinking from. But Suzuki-san wasn't poisoned, of course. Perhaps we should take these too. Take these so we can examine them in more detail later. Pair of teacups. The teacups used by Mr. Shamspeare and Mr. Natsume. The one with the green line around the rim was Mr. Natsume's. Okay, I think that's it. That's it for this room, anyway. So I gotta examine all the evidence I found. This isn't Gina, is it? Maybe it's one of the Garadevs? Mr. Garadev, maybe? I don't know, maybe it's Mr. Garadev. Looks like you're having a good snoop around, eh? Oh, hello again. Inspector Gregson, but back so soon? After I threw that little Japanese fella in the clink, I went and reported this to the investigation division. In 5 minutes' time, this place will be cordoned off by the yard. Good thing I finished just in time. Oh, I see. Well, we'd better be leaving then. Poor Mr. Natsume must be feeling very low, being back in the cell again so soon. I'm sure. We should... Oh, what? What? Hello? I'm sure we should probably go and, Don't look behind you, but I think there's a zombie. I'll grab this metal pipe and bash him over the head. Okay, this is something. He's alive? What's wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Gah! Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. A poor player. That struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. Now, how soundeth the next part? You seeing this, Mr. Gregson? It is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Indeed, oh, happy day! Oh, jeez. The freak? What? Walking Dead! That show doesn't even exist yet. But I know exactly what you're talking about. That was something. That happened. The fella isn't dead at all. What was that nonsense he was saying, though? I have no idea. Let me consult my handy-dandy notebook. I think... Yes, it was from William Shakespeare's Macbeth. Oh, so okay. Shakespeare does exist. Okay, this is very trippy. I just assumed maybe this was supposed to be Shakespeare. And, like, this guy, and they would just call it... Kind of like Sherlock Sholmes. A soliloquy from Act 5, Scene 5. Shakespeare? Who's that? I only know Mr. Shamspeare in this dimension. So it was that the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare, came back to life. If the man had indeed been poisoned, it transpired that it hadn't killed him. He was taken by emergency carriage to a nearby hospital for treatment. And Inspector Gregson evicted us from the scene of the crime. Whatever that now was. Okay then, I was not expecting that. Oh, there he is. 21st of February, Briar Road. I think the guy who was just, what is he doing? He looks like he's trying to look through a window or something. I think that's the guy I was talking about that had a connection to Shamspeare. He was arguing with him in the last game. Whatever you think will happen now? Good question. What a strange situation for Mr. Natsume. Arrested for murder, but then the victim comes back to life. I think perhaps the victim was never dead in the first place. It seems very likely that Mr. Shamspeare did consume poison, as we deduced, but that didn't kill him. But was it an accident, attempted suicide, or attempted murder? That is the question. Until the truth can be established, I imagine the police will keep Mr. Natsume in custody. I suppose so. Let's hope it doesn't come to anything more than a night in the cells. Oh. What's this? What's that man doing over there? He looks like he's trying to see into Suzuki-san's lodgings. That's suspicious. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Excuse me. Could we have a word? What the... Huh? Ah! He just ran off. I feel sure that I've seen that man somewhere before. Where was it? I do too, but I don't remember. Intriguing. I think I do remember. Okay, we're gonna take a closer look at all the evidence we found in there. So these three pieces right here. Let's see. I guess the tear itself. Whoever opened this envelope didn't bother with a letter opener or scissors, did they? Nope. Yes, whoever opened it was clearly someone with an unrefined temperament. And judging from the angle of the rip here, The person in question must have been right-handed. Ah. Miss Suzero, I think perhaps someone's been reading too much of The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. You can never read too much of it, Mr. Naruhodo. Never! I tried to give it a pause there. Dramatic pause. Okay, I think that's it. Not much to examine here. Okay, so let's check what's inside. Oh, yeah, there definitely looks like there was some kind of coin in here. What is it, Mr. Naruhodo? This bar of soap. When we first found it, I could have sworn there was some sort of round disc in this depression just here. A reddish one. Yes, you're right. I remember it too. But now the depression is completely empty. Did it just fall out and we didn't notice? Where could the disc have gone? Interesting. A cheap bar of soap that was discovered just outside Mr. Shamspeare's window. The little reddish medallion from the center has mysteriously vanished. I wonder if I tried examining it like the moment we got it. If it would have still been there. Interesting, is that it? Probably. So we're getting all these updates, that's important. Oh, it's cracked. This must be the cup that Mr. Shamspeare was drinking from then. It's stained on the inside. Tea does that, I'm afraid. Even green tea. Oh, really? I've never noticed before. You've never noticed? Silly boy. Well, I never leave it in the cup long enough to leave a mark. I like to gulp it down. Drink tea while it's hot. That's the Japanese way, isn't it? Oh dear. So many people seem to have the wrong idea about our culture. And most of them are Japanese, you dingus. What about this one? This is the teacup from which Mr. Natsume was drinking. Yes, unlike the other one, the inside of the cup is completely clean. I suppose you must have drunk the contents before the tea had a chance to leave a mark. I always gulp it down too, as we just established. Sorry, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, if you just sip it little by little, it goes cold. Clearly, I shall have to instruct you in the proper way to take tea. Oh, okay. The teacups used by Mr. Shamspeare and Mr. Natsume, there is no tea ring on the inside of Mr. Natsume's cup. Maybe there was nothing in there to begin with. That could be the case. I think that's it. I think we got an updated piece of evidence from everything. I don't remember if we got evidence off of this one. But definitely these two things. And we've already looked at everything else. Okay. I can revisit some places as well. Because now I have Suzero with me. And we haven't visited a lot of these places in like the flashback, in this little flashback era. So I'm probably going to do that before going to the new locations. But we'll examine this, well, obviously we'll examine out here first. The Garadev household and Mr. Natsume's lodgings are in a prominent position there on the corner. Sometimes when I look at the building, I can't help feeling that it's a bit of a slant. It does rather look as though it would collapse in even the smallest earthquake, doesn't it? And isn't it supposed to be haunted as well? I think I might have a hunch as to why Sozuki-san is such a hunchback. He is really the hunchback of Notre Dame. Oh, there's soap. I think you can see the soap on the windowsill. Maybe not, I don't know. With the exception of the top floor where Mr. and Mrs. Garadev live, all the windows are bricked up. Yes, that's because of an old window tax that was charged on the number of windows the property had. In order to pay less tax, the poorer members of society filled in many of their windows. But the tax has since been abolished, hasn't it? So the windows could all be opened up again, surely. Unfortunately, it would appear that the residents of this district can't afford to pay to have the work done. Yes, that is a sad state of affairs. Especially for people like poor Mr. Natsume who have to live all cooped up in a windowless room. That sounds very depressing. I suppose that's the price you pay for living in very cheap accommodation. It all seems rather pointless when you put it like that. Poor guy. Can't help but feel sorry for him. Okay, so let's examine this dilapidated bike. Didn't this also belong to Mr. Natsume? There always seems to be a bicycle outside the Garrett residence. I read that bicycles are extremely popular all over Great Britain at the moment, in fact. That one seems very warped, though. Especially the front wheel. Does that make it more of a challenge to ride, do you think? No. No, I'm afraid that may be a result of the rider's incompetence. For the front wheel to be so badly warped, I'm afraid the rider may have been similarly afflicted. Just say it like it is, Suzuto. Nail the guy. Then there's a good chance Mr. Natsume has been practicing on this bicycle, I think. Oh dear. I fear you may be right. His brain is as damaged as this bike. Okay, I don't think there's anything else on this side. You can check down the street. London is blanketed in fog again today, and the sky is covered in cloud. But if you look carefully in the distance, you can just make out the Crystal Tower being built. Ah, the Crystal Tower, yes. The centerpiece of the great exhibition that's to open in 6 months' time. That's right, we kind of got a glimpse of that. I wonder if they'll play a more prominent role in this game. Everyone's talking about the Great Exhibition of London at the moment, it seems. Well, it's to be the largest event of its kind anywhere in the world, with technology and scientists from all over. I can't wait for it myself. Do you think visiting students from the Far East like us will be granted entry? I hope so, I want to see it. The last great exhibition that was held in London had more than 6 million visitors, it seems. And this time the British are determined to make it an even bigger success, to outdo the Paris Exposition. I see. That's an incredible number of people, for real. And with so many people expected to attend, we should easily be able to slip in unnoticed. There's always the honest approach of buying tickets at the main entrance, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't make me report you to Inspector Gregson. Okay, anything else? We got this side. Ooh. Suzuto, would you like to build a snowman? What are you doing, Miinosuke? Why somebody built a snowman on some sort of pedestal, do you think? That's not a pedestal, Mr. Naruhodo. That's part of the snowman's body. I just spit on my mic. Really? But it already has a perfectly good body. Well, it's true that British snowmen are usually made with 2 balls of snow. With 2 big balls. Perhaps this is a foreigner. And now we're looking at him as if he's strange. Poor man, I know how he feels. If anything, it's Japanese and British 2-ball snowmen that are the strange ones, isn't it? After all, real people do have 3 sections. Head, torso, and legs. Do you ever think that perhaps you think about things too much? Nonsense! Oh, William Robbins. I thought that was William Shamspeare. Is that the only thing over here with checking? I think so. Okay, if that is everything, which I think it is, I think that's where we're going to stop the episode for today. Okay, so we a bunch happened. We got to do one of those extravaganzas, or those deduction spectaculars. I keep forgetting what they're called. I like those. They're fun. This was a bit of an easy one. They kind of fed this one to you, but it might have been because it's the very first one. I've definitely had to think about some of the others in the last game, so we'll see. But obviously the big thing that happened is Shamspeare's alive. That was crazy. He just slowly started to get up. And I'm like, wait a minute. What's going on here? Couldn't speak for a moment there. But anyway, so we deduced that he was poisoned. There was another person in the room, and that person was Mr. Natsume. But somebody else could have given him the cup or put poison in it. So yeah, that is grounds to suspect him. And that's really it. And then we saw that old man who ran away. So I don't know if he has anything to do with the soap or not. But we've seen him briefly in the last game as well, so he'll probably play a bigger part in this, I'm sure. Like I said not too long ago, I will probably, let's go to this menu. I'll probably go back to all these other rooms first. Because obviously we have to go to the Garrett room in the prison. That's where Mr. Natsume is, and we have to talk, and Suzuto said we have to talk to the Garrett. But I just want to explore these 3 rooms here. Especially now that we're back in the past and Suzuto's with us, there'll be new dialogue. I have to examine Iris's blackboard. And then I think there was a spade in there, right? A spade and stepladder conversation, one of those. Gotta make sure I keep up with those. But anyway, that'll do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always. If you liked it, please hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and share the video with all your friends, family, loved ones. I really appreciate it. I couldn't do this without you guys, and it's you guys that makes me want to keep doing it more than anything else. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't feel like I say it enough. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. So, take care, and bye-bye.